Hello, my name is Daniel Binns and I'm the CEO of Interbrand New York. I'm delighted to be here to facilitate a conversation about the amazing launch of a new technology protocol brand. And here to share the news and answer some questions around it is Tobin Richardson, who's the President and CEO of the Connectivity Standards Alliance, formerly known as the Zigbee Alliance, and we'll talk more about that in a little while. And Oliver Maltby, who's Executive Creative Director and Portfolio Lead at Interbrand New York. So, gentlemen, welcome.
Hi.
Hey, Daniel. Hey, Ollie.
I'm going to start with you, Tobin. And I want to just you tell us a little bit about what your role is and what the aim of the Connectivity Standards Alliance is.
Yeah, you bet. As head of the Alliance, I'm charged really with driving an organization that is bringing together the best in the industry, the smallest companies, the largest companies, and really creating an environment where they can set aside their market interests that are really driving their personas there, and coming together as peers and colleagues to create standards that create, an organization and a standard for the market that everybody can benefit from. So to help make that market, our members kind of come together, co-create, if you will, and really kind of drive the foundation future of the Internet of Things under one roof. And so my role with that organization is really to help us ensure that we are, setting the right kind of boundary conditions, the right operating environment, and also the right vision for what we're trying to achieve together. And so that's why it's such an exciting role and such an exciting organization that really, has a history in creating wireless networking control technologies and bringing that, and really that was really the start of the Internet of Things, and now into CSA and the Connectivity Standards Alliance, and building out what the future of the Internet of Things will be.
So the brand that we're going to talk, and the launch that we're going to talk about across the course of the next 5-10 minutes is Matter, and that's the new product that CSA are just launching. Tell us about what it is and why does it matter? What's it going to do in the world?
Yeah, well, Matter is a new brand for Project Chip. Many people probably, if they're following this kind of world closely, know this is Project Connected Home over IP. It was an ambitious project started in 2019 by several companies, some very significant companies, to really transform the IoT and tackle head-on some of the biggest barriers to IoT growth and adoption. That includes things like interoperability, walled gardens, complexity, and really base that on a common IP-based standard that everybody kind of understands and knows, but we're all agreeing on the same way that our devices are going to talk to each other. So Matter, as our new protocol, which is very exciting as I see it, will really be the building block for the connected things, really simplify development for builders of IoT and increase compatibility for users, and really deliver a better consumer experience in the end.
So Matter is a consumer brand. People are going to see it on products. How are they going to interact with it?
Yeah, so that's this is really exciting for us. We have some consumer-facing brands. This is going to be, a really industry-leading consumer brand that consumers will see right there along next to other compatibility logos like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And as you're looking at building product or buying products rather, you just look for that Matter mark, and you know that it's going to work in an IoT setting, a smart home, smart building, what have you.
Great. So Ollie, we were tasked with, you were tasked with not only creating a new name for the Alliance, what became CSA, but also creating the brand of Matter, all in 2020 during the pandemic. So how did that change the way that you had to work with Tobin and the team?
Thanks, Daniel. So I think the first thing is that we were creating both brands at the same time on the same timeline that was very condensed. So what we knew from the outset is that we had to work with 10 plus organizations, each with one representative in from each of them. So we had to think how we could create unity from the off and how we could create that cohesion. And what we really did is over-index on the human aspect of the teamwork, especially from the start of the project. So at the kickoff, we spent probably half of the time getting to know each other, getting to know each other's hobbies, families, kids, favorite sports teams. And it sounds really basic, but that was incredibly important to building those bonds of trust throughout the rest of the project. And we continued that with a weekly cadence. Everything was done incredibly transparently. working on digital boards. And we tried to make it a fun, enjoyable process where we all made decisions every week together throughout the whole course of the project.
That's great. And so, Matter, could as a technology protocol is quite an ethereal thought. So how do you create a brand for something like that? Is that different from creating a brand for a more tangible product?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the challenge with Matter is even from the offset, it's relatively hard to understand exactly what it does and how it lives in the world. So what you have to do is really over-index on the semiotics, both in terms of the name and also then the application, because this is a brand that isn't going to have huge advertising put behind it. So it has to stand alone where it's found. And as Tobin mentioned, it's going to be found next to things like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And luckily, Interbrand has a rich history of naming technology brands like that, like Wi-Fi as an example, or Mesh, or Bing. And we needed to find something that could automatically convey some of the qualities that we knew the protocol had. And that's why Matter was such a great choice.
So Tobin, this is, as they say, not your first rodeo. You have created brands like this in the past. But maybe a little different because of the setup of the alliance and of course the virtual nature of working with the team. But what do you think? How does this compare to the previous engagements that you've run?
Yeah, created brands with this organization and also Silicon Valley 2.5 decades ago. Maybe I shouldn't say that many numbers, but I've been doing it for a while. And this one, something Ollie mentioned is really important, right? He took the human aspect and he really brought that in with the team. And I could not appreciate that more. That is really our own ethos in terms of really, not just standards that matter, right? To play on that word, but standards that deliver something that's useful for the human condition, right? And it is really about delivering that. As Ollie mentioned, we were focused on delivering something that solved a pain point for people. And that was really what we achieved together, and what we accomplished together is looking at, what are we trying to actually solve? And if you talk to people about, this ethereal kind of notion of a technology standard, they think you work for a spy agency or some R&D group because they don't know what that means. And then you start describing it in terms that they understand. Well, if you buy a light bulb, and just a very simple light bulb because yours went out, but you want to connect it, do you want to have to become a network administrator to manage that? Do you want to, have to read, 25 pages and then agree to 5, different EULAs for that device, or you just want to plug it in and it works with whether you've got, this smart speaker or that smart speaker. And so it becomes really real. People really understand that. Everybody gets that. And as the smart home takes off, smart buildings and others, that's what's really important to them. And that's what kind of infused this process. To your original point and question there about whether or not, how is this different from other ones? It really comes down to the Interbrand team and what a great job they did and you guys did together, bringing together all these disparate opinions and market views, but also creating an environment where we could achieve that. And we couldn't do it over coffee. We couldn't do it over flying together and do a workshop together and really get to know each other. And I know a lot more about Ollie and his kids, and it's awesome and it's terrific. And because of that, we gain that trust, which is so difficult to achieve in a virtual environment. And I'll tell you, those digital tools and that team feel, we've stolen some of those for our own use with our board through a retreat with our own team. We've learned a lot ourselves about how to operate better by virtue of the work that Interbrand brought to us, of course, in the brand, but really also as a way of working.
We've talked about the fact that the alliance is made up, obviously, or certainly the Matter team is made up of a large number of massive technology companies. So how do you corral that group? I mean, what sort of ways do you go about actually trying to create alignment around a single idea?
Yeah, I guess in short, the answer is probably very carefully. You have some very big stakes here, right? And the helping companies, their executives, from the CEOs of some of the largest companies in the world down to the software developers, helping them understand that the market's going to be bigger, right? And the experiences that they will be able to deliver will be even more innovative and creative and exciting for end consumers. So really setting the stage. I won't call it boundaries, really, rather it's kind of critical that everybody's aligned around that mission, the end game. And that gives you a grounding that you can bring everyone back to. So when we start going down different pathways, we can say, okay, we're diverging a little bit here. Your interest is starting to play in, yours is starting to play in. How do we kind of pull that back so that we're all going in the same direction? Let's remind ourselves what that's about. And in order to do that, folks like Ollie and the rest of the team and us on the Alliance side need to be really good at listening and giving people room. And that's really critical with a group as varied as our Alliance membership. And it's major technology companies, major retailers, executives to very hardcore technical folks. And then lastly, I guess I would say it's flexibility, right? So it is really, we're really grateful for Interbrand's understanding of our unique conditions in terms of how we operate as a national organization with large companies from China, US, Germany, France, et cetera. And it's really about being able to work within and allow for that variance, and with this notion of progress over perfection, and making sure that we get progress and still land on a really high quality outcome. And I really believe we did.
I would like to add, from our perspective, it was really Tobin's leadership that created that space for that team to create such a great outcome, because at no point did it feel like there was any internal politics or any kind of power struggles going on. It really felt like a safe space where everyone was coming with the intent of creating this new protocol. And it was incredible when you think of pulling all of those companies together, each with their own agendas, and actually feeling like it really was the level playing field where everyone had the same amount of say in all the decision making. I mean, it really was a team decision and a team development of all of the work, and that was a tribute to Tobin's great leadership through this project.
You're really kind, Ollie, and you're being overly kind. You guys did so much to make that possible, so appreciate it.
So you landed on Matter. Ollie, tell me how you got to that name and what does it mean?
Yeah, thank you. So, I mean, how we got to the name was through an incredibly long, torturous process to get like a global name that can be trademarked in every single category. So, it would be a lie if we just said we came to it and it was done. That's not the case. We go through a very extensive proprietary naming process at Interbrand, where we have rounds of revisions of names that get whittled down, they get pre-screened, and then also that bank of names that are potential solutions then go back into all those organizations to get vetted as well, because each organization needed to make sure that they weren't protecting those names as well. So the natural naming process was robust. But the name we landed on was perfect because we knew from the strategic work that this had to be a foundational element. It's the foundational building block of all of IoT. So we wanted to, again, going back to the semiotics I mentioned earlier, we wanted something that felt like it was semiotically telling you what this thing was and how it acted and what it did. And a name like Matter, which is obviously like the building block of everything in the world, is perfect for that. And we always liked that sense that it intimated almost that it had a physical property, that if matter was inside an object, you could almost imagine it, that you could conceive of this thing not being a technology protocol, but almost like this living, entity, which was something that excited us too.
And given this is living on, ultimately millions of devices around the world, not something you want to change, that visual device that you create. So how did you come about defining an aesthetic, a look for Matter that could withstand a 20-year history potentially?
Yeah, it's a challenge, especially when design can roll with different fashions and trends at the time, and obviously most technology can be updated relatively easily. But whereas a standard has to live on, generally physical products that are going to be in the world, like you said, for the next 10, 20, 15 or 30 years. And so what we did is we really, again, came back to the roots of what the actual protocol did, thinking about really granular semiotics of how do we convey trust, simplicity, connectivity, and we try to imbue that in the mark that where we ended up with, which essentially is a triangle with 3 points going off it, but with a circle connecting all of those points to really suggest all of those different protocols coming together and connecting. So the actual symbol itself suggests connectivity almost in a medieval or Egyptian hieroglyphic sense. When you look at it, it automatically speaks to you about what you think it might be doing. And then once you have the symbol right, the typography has to be as clean and simple as possible, so it can work in today's world, but can also work in the future and doesn't succumb to any of the kind of trends that are happening in the market right now.
So Tobin, I'll end with one final question. So when will people see Matter in the world, and what will they likely see it on first?
Yeah, no, I'm super excited to see this out in the market, and they'll see that in it'll feel like a few scant months away. I mean, product plans and development plans obviously take a long time, and we know that there are major manufacturers who are intersecting that with the completion and readiness of the standard. So I think we'll start seeing this on shelves within a year. I think we'll see mock-ups or at least products shown at CES, and hopefully we can see that in person in Las Vegas in January. And we'll see products advertised in this calendar year. So it's pretty exciting, and also lightning speed when it comes to standards. So we're pretty excited about that too.
Yep, it's been the year of lightning speed, so you're in good company there. That's great to hear. And Ollie, just one final thing. Obviously, the complexities of creating two brands pretty much simultaneously on a fairly tight timeline. I mean, how do the two roles, how do they work together? You got the Standards Alliance, CSA, and then you've got Matter as this product. But how did you think about those two things working? Do they need to work in harmony together?
Yeah, it's interesting actually, because traditionally there's always been a one-to-one relationship between the alliance and the standard that it supports. So if you think of the Wi-Fi Alliance and Wi-Fi as an example, there's always been this one-to-one relationship. CSA really breaks this for the first time, because CSA it is really an umbrella of different standards underneath it. So it was really a case of working out the new roles for both of those entities. So we know Matter plays a much more consumer facing role in the world. It's obviously for developers as well, and all of the different markets has to support, but it plays a very different role because we have to make that a connectivity symbol that people look for and choose. Whereas CSA was specifically really about pushing away from just one standard and really being the guiding light for the IoT industry all up. So somewhere where everyone can come together, can connect, and really start to move the industry forward as a unified entity, very much like how we produce both brands with all of the organizations coming together. So once you understand those roles, then from a design and branding perspective, we can start to pull those apart both visually and verbally in terms of what they're there to do. So Matter is there to connect to all the different IoT objects that you'll find in your kitchen or living room, whereas the Connectivity Standards Alliance really sets the vision for the future of the IoT industry.
Well, that's great. I want to thank you both for your time. Tobin, thank you for your partnership. It's been a wonderful journey working with you and the team across the course of the last year. And Ollie, thanks for telling all the stories of the behind the scenes of how this all got done. And we're really excited to see it all out in the world and start to change people's lives, which I'm sure it will.
That's the goal. Yeah, we're very excited. It was great to work with you guys too. It's been a terrific process. We can't wait to see this really getting in the market.